Hey guys, welcome to Bar Z. My name's Stan, and I don't usually do automotive mechanical type work on the channel, but I thought this might be interesting. Just recently, I burned up the front wheel bearings on my dually, and they use what is called a component wheel bearing. That is a single row wheel bearing. Now, there's a fix for it. I can either feed it the factory bearings and have to change them out every, they're talking about a 60 to 80,000 mile life expectancy, or I can switch over to a kit, which converts the truck into part-time four-wheel drive, which is, there's probably some gas savings there because you're not spinning all the front components. This kit is by Yukon. I ordered the kit. It was here within a couple of days, got it from Summit Racing. I'm not affiliated with Yukon or Summit in any way. Just real pleased that they got the parts to me really quick. Done a little bit of reading. I've got my instructions here. Lord forbid we have to go through instructions. And I've read them, you know, and it's got nice parts blow-ups. It's got some nice diagrams in it. You know, nice color diagrams. So nice package they sent. I was pretty impressed by the packaging. Let's get this box out of here. That was just for academic purposes. I've got one of everything up here. I've got one of the hubs, which is a wonker, but very beautifully made. The hardware kits are kind of bubble packed, you know, very nice. Here's the bearings we're switching over to, and we're getting away from the single component. We're getting away from the single component wheel bearing, and we're putting in double row tapered wheel bearings. It comes with hubs. There's your hubs there. And these are all machined out of, I think they said they were 4140. Nicely machined, very beautiful pieces. It comes with new stub axles. So we've got new stub axles for the part-time kit. And it has the, actually the lockers, the manual lockers that can go out on the front hubs. So everything's bubble packed or blister packed, nicely packaged, and I'm looking forward to getting it in. Let's fire the diesel, roll it in, and start taking that thing apart and see what it takes to put this thing in. All right, guys, thanks for watching.
Here outside the shop, we've already rolled the truck in, got it up on jack stands, and as you can clearly see, we got a serious problem with the wheel bearing. And we're just going to whip the wheel covers off and go from there. We're going to see if, and I'm just curious, we're going to see if a Milwaukee cordless impact will whip those things off. That's, that might be kind of interesting, you know. But a problem definitely exists with that wheel bearing. We're 7/8, negative. 1 inch. That's a little loose. I think that's 15/16. There we go. Well, let's find out how much grunt this M18 Milwaukee really has. See if it'll. Yeah, look at that. Pretty cool. I don't have to get any air out. Pretty good if you can pull the lug nuts off a dually. Those things usually go down about 125. Alrighty. That's that. Well, we've definitely got some problems that exist. And you can see there the wheel bearing's just junked. So we're going to get the, we're going to pull this outer spacer off. This hub flange doesn't get reused. We reuse the rotor. We're going to need to check the rotor. I'll probably have to feed it brakes. And then I got to find out what's wrong with the anti-locks too, why the anti-lock light is on. If the sensor needs to be replaced, I'm going to replace that. Let's get a little deeper into this thing. Alright, well next up is the outer hub. It's not going to get reused with this kit, but we still need to get this one off. And unfortunately there's no way to get in here. I'll bring the camera over real quick and show you. We're going for these bolts right here. And there's no through hole, so you can't get in there with an impact or any kind of a socket or anything. So we've got a trick to do those. And what you want to do, let me put the camera back. What you want to do is turn the steering wheel slightly, go ahead and lock the column, and get yourself a nice heavy bar. And we're not going to be reusing these wheel studs or anything, so we really don't care about the threads. But go ahead and put a pinch on that, going counterclockwise. Then you can get a wrench on this guy out here and bear down on it. But if you turn the wheel, you can be out here and you're not trying to do it inside the wheel well. So that's and these things, they mongo these things down pretty tight. I don't even know if these have been off from the factory. They might not have been. Oh, they're not too bad. Okay, well we can get a couple here before we have to turn. And then from there it's just handwork getting the hub off. Loose. Alright, there's another. Yeah, they grunt these down pretty good. That's all of them. Now, if you were going to reuse the hub and you want to do the bar method, just spin a couple lug nuts on there and let that go in there and bear on the lug nuts instead of pushing on the threads. Make your life much easier. And these are spinning off pretty good. Not a lot of rust. You know, if you do have a lot of rust on there, you might want to give them a pre-soak with some penetrating oil. And maybe a little wire brush. Go in there and clean out those threads so they spin off nice. Otherwise you're going to be wrenching forever. I'm getting pretty lucky here though. That's half of them. And I don't even think I reused these this hardware. I think they've given me new hardware for that. But hey, that's a good sounding setup, isn't it? Look at that. Ha. All right. Well, we're 8 for 8. Pretty good. See that thing will come off. No such luck. I'm gonna go get a dead blow. We'll knock that thing off. Okay, so we got a dead blow. We should be able to knock this thing off pretty easily. You can get it separated from the brake rotor. We have separation, but there might be a little rust or something in there. I know it indexes and registers in the kind of a hub in the center there. Now I'm just rocking it. Not to mention it's pretty difficult getting a swing on that thing. There it is. All right, now that's your hub there, and they're not going to reuse this. They use they've got their own. But if you were doing a cartridge type bearing and just doing an OEM replacement, you need to keep this. All right, but you can see now the rotor is floating, and it's just floating on these studs, and the rotor is will pull off next. You have to get the caliper off. We got to get the caliper off and the carrier. So coming up. Okay, while you're at it, go ahead and take off your center nut. If there's a pin there, pull it and get that center nut off. And this is an 1 3/4. Fits it a little funky. I'm thinking it's probably metric, but 1 3/4 is about the closest we got. And that'll take care of your, that got really chewed up. And that'll take care of your center nut and your old stub axle onto there. Next we can go for the brakes. So that's next. Okay, next up is the actual caliper itself, and we're going to grab a big screwdriver. We're just going to collapse the caliper. I need to get in there and get a gap going. And we don't really care about the brake shoes. The brake shoes are going to get replaced, but for now, let's not destroy the rotor. And I think I see a gap in here, a place where I can. Yep. I hope I'm not blocking the camera too much, but I am collapsing that caliper right now. And getting on the rotor. I'm just going right in the fins of the rotor and giving it a pry. Now you can feel that caliper collapsing. And it's just like that. Now for the caliper, we've got a couple of... that's your anti-lock. There's your anti-lock there. This is your actual fluid line going to the caliper. Got a couple of 10mm bolts that hold the caliper in. Those are those long telescoping bolts where your caliper floats on. So let's get those cracked loose, and we'll stick a ratchet on them. I am not using an air ratchet just for the sake of noise and blowing out the camera and stuff. So I'm kind of doing everything by hand here. But those are the long bolts, and there'll be a sleeve and a kind of a bushing looking arrangement in there. I know it's painful to watch me doing all this by hand, but it's just for the sake of the video. Alright, we got both of the telescope bolts out of the caliper. We've collapsed the caliper, so we should pull away. And usually what you're going to do is you're going to pull up the bottom first, and the bottom's going to come out, then the top hinges out. And those are the two pistons right there that you just finished collapsing. So we're just going to set that off to the side. Hopefully we don't have to hang it by the hose. Oh, we're good. It's set right on that arm. And now you can access the brake pads and get a good look at them. They actually don't look that bad, but we're going to replace them anyways while we're in here. There's the brake pad there. And next up is this carrier. This is a caliper. I just call it a carrier. I don't know what else to really call it. But that is an 18mm. And these are usually really frickin' tight. Okay, well I ended up having to put a breaker bar on it, and the camera was in my way, so I moved it. And now we can finish this carrier and get this out of here. The top is really easy. The bottom one was super tight. Alright, so this gets reused, I do believe. So this carrier is still good. I don't even see where the rotor even... Oh, it did drag it a little bit. See where it drug it up there. I'll check into getting a new one, see if they're even available. It's not a heck of a lot of damage. It just lightly kissed it there. But this is a forged steel piece from TRW. Look at that, with a Chrysler logo. Alright, now next up's the rotor. The rotor should just slide right off. And that's that. And holy moly, look at the carnage in there. I'm thinking I'm due for a new back plate and some other stuff. There's some stuff coming out of the bearing. Good Lord, look at that. And there's your wheel bearing, boys. All right. Okay, well, next up is your the 4 bolts holding in the cartridge bearing, and also known as a component bearing, and that's this fellow right here. And these bolts come in from the back side, so you're going to need to turn the steering wheel to get these two, and turn it the other way to get the front two, and they're going to be tight. So we're going to get set up on here with a cheater bar and see if we can crack these guys loose. You know, rust and road grime and salt for you guys back east, that's not going to do you any good either. We're just going to give it a gentle pull so we can get that sucker to crack loose. Oh yeah, that's not bad. All right, that's the first one there. We're going to get in here, pop this back one out. I'm just going to get them loose for now. And we're going to back these things out until we've got no threads showing there. And I learned a trick on the internet. I'm not the innovator of this, but I'm going to show you a way to push this cartridge out of here. Okay, we're just going to back them out to right there, leave the bolts hanging out a little bit. Same with the bottom. And then we still got the 2 front ones out here to do. And I'm going to move the cameras in my way, so I'm going to move the wheel over, get the 2 front ones, and then we'll see if that trick I saw on the internet works. Okay, I'm going to get my trusty bar out. We got the wheel turned, and we're going to crack those other 2 loose. There's the bottom. Pretty good. Yeah, for added fun, you've got the steering in your way on this one. Let's see, I think I can get on that one there. And just a gentle pull. Yeah, no problems. Now, like I say, you guys in the back east with the rust and the salt and all that stuff, you may have to give these threads some treatments. This truck's a California truck, so I get water, but that's about it. And that bolt's just spinning real nice. All right. Let's get to where we can get the steering wheel in a neutral position, and I'm going to show you the trick I learned on the internet. Okay, I hope I got this camera in a good spot. This is the rig you're going to need. It's an 18mm socket with a short extension, and I want you to get a bolt that goes in there that you can use to jack your extension in and out, and just install it on here, but then take your nut and bolt and extend it all the way in till it pushes against the main axle right there. And now what we're going to do is we're going to go inside and we're going to start the diesel, and we're going to I'm going to preload that as much as I can there. We're going to start the diesel, and then all we're going to do is turn the wheels, and that's going to push that bolt. And keep your eye on this. I'm going to tip the camera just slightly and watch this joint right here, and we should see that joint open up and start pushing that housing out. We may have to do this back front, or diagonally, but if you work it like that, it's going to push that bearing housing out. So I'm going to go start the diesel. Don't put your foot on the brake. Remember, you got the caliper off. Just start the diesel and turn it. In this case, we're going to turn it to the right. So let's go fire this thing up. You're going to hear a bunch of noise, and then hopefully you're going to see some separation right there. Okay, well, yes, we certainly did. And we can get our pieces out here. I don't know whether we might be able to do it again on this other side. We got quite a bit of separation there. But let's go to the other side And we're going to do the same thing over here and steer it. This time we're going to steer it to the left. Wow, I put some pressure on there. Look at that, it bent the bolt. You guys saw it better than I did. I wasn't around for it, but that's pretty outstanding. It's pretty cool. All right, let's get this one in here. And I got to go get the steering wheel tip straight again so I can get that loaded again, and we'll go from there. All right, well, that's kind of straight. Let's see if we can get this thing preloaded again. Wow, there's a lot of pressure on that bolt, man. It really pushed out on that. All right, we're looking for some separation back here at this point this time. Let's kind of zoom you guys up. Maybe you missed the first one. I don't know. I'm just aiming the camera randomly here. I don't have a viewfinder on this camera. It's a GoPro. But we're still rolling. Let's do that. Let's do that front one. Well, something certainly happened there. All right, my socket came out, and it might be fun watching the video later, but we've definitely got some separation there. Okay, so that's pretty good. I'm pretty pleased with that so far, of that thing coming apart. And the backing plate gets sandwiched in there. Right now I got an Allen wrench, or an Allen bolt, right here holding the anti-lock cable in. I'm going to go ahead and yank that out and get that out of the way, because that's going to come off with the bearing. So I'm going to get that out of the way. Then we got to, I think we need to work on the stub axle in the flange and the bearing all at the same time and work them both out together. Alrighty, so let's get on that. Okay, well, next up we got a 3-jaw puller on the hub and straight to the axle. I've sprayed holy water inside of there to get it on the splines. Let's see if we break something or the damn thing comes off. Well, let's try going the right direction first. Alright, puller's engaged all the way around. Oh yeah, piece of cake. And that's that. Alright, flange off. The splines inside looked awfully rusty, and I was worried about them seizing up on that stub axle, but she came right off. And there's some remnants of the bearing. Look at that. Some bearing there. There's some of the rotor for the anti-locks. So, yeah, thank God we got new ones of those too. This would have cost me a fortune in parts. You might as well spend them on something decent. It's actually going to work. And here's my first view of the bearing. You know, I've got my first good look at it in there. I'll get you guys down inside of there to look at that. Here's my first view of that bearing. Okay, well, next up we're going to finish pulling that bearing housing. And the anti-lock sensor needs to come out, and then stub axle's the last thing. That's cute. Well, it's been dragging. Anti-lock sensor was dragging, so probably needs a new one. Just guessing. So I get to chase that wire up to wherever it plugs in. That's awesome. I'm sure they don't give those away either. Alright, we'll put this down on the tray, and let's talk about getting this bearing off the rest of the way. It's still very locked in there. And we've pushed as far as we can from the back side. We've got all the bolts out. But what I'm going to do now is I'm just going to run bolts in from the front. And you're going to say, hey, how's that going to work? They're just going into a hole. Well, you know what? I'm going to put a little piece of flat bar behind each one of them. Let's take some flat stock, put it there, and hopefully finish pushing these turkeys out. Let's see, that bearing. There it is. And that pushed our housing off the rest of the way. And there's your cartridge assembly with what's left of the bearing. It looks like it is a tapered bearing. There's your inner tapered and your outer tapered's right there, but man, that is stupid to put two bearings so close together. They just don't have any holding power. So anyways, that's your component bearing right there. And that's a pretty easy way to take them off. The idea for the push from the back side was off the internet. The idea with the push from the front side with the flat bar, that was all me, baby. Alright, so this is another piece that doesn't get reused. And we can get our backing plate out of here. And next up is just our stub axle. And that's coming up next. Okay, now we're going for the axle assembly. We need to get it out so we can change out the U-joint and replace this stub axle. This stub axle is new to the kit. The inner axle gets reused, and this just slips in and out of the differential. So it should be just a matter of putting a driver on the backside and getting a pry on it. Yep, there she comes. And as long as all this stuff fits out of the hole here, we've got an assembly. Pull it out carefully because you don't want to disrupt that seal. There's a seal way inside, and this is going to be rusty all the way in to where it goes into the differential. And there's your seal area right here. That's the one we didn't want to damage, and this is oil bath in here. So this is the only part that gets an oil bath. This out here just runs dry. All right, so that you'll see these rusty and crappy all over the place, but from here in needs to be clean. Check your splines. But next up, we need to change out this U-joint, and if your U-joint's good, you can reuse it, and mine actually feels really good. So we'll give that a good look when we get it apart and get the new stub axle on. Alrighty.
Okay guys, well that's the end of part one, which I'm just showing disassembly and pulling the thing apart. Didn't really give me a whole lot of trouble. The other side is identical to that, except your axle length is much shorter on the driver's side. That was the passenger side I was showing. Part two, maybe three, is going to be installing the kit, and I still got to pick up some parts. We've pulled it apart now. We've seen what it needs, so I can get these other parts that I need in here. I do need an anti-lock sensor. I do need a rotor. We're going to feed it fresh brake pads and things like that. So these are all parts that don't come with that part-time kit. But I hope you enjoyed part one. Stay tuned for part three. I'll get some parts on order, and we'll shoot some video next week. All right? Thanks for watching.